We have our own jugaad for everything, a simple decision that one man can make. 540 people sit together and nations and planet is suffering for this. Now I think, why should I go by the law? I will also find some other way to do it. Naturally, criminals will become leaders. So we are not following democracy, because democracy happens by election. Right now we are running the nation by selection.
As you said, Sadhguru, we are moving from the feudal, the medieval system to a modern system, and we would like both competence and integrity to be together.
You asked for a practical
solution. That's a reasonable
solution.
aspiration.
You asked for a practical solution, not an ethical answer. Now, we must understand the leadership as a whole in the last 200 years there has been a metamorphosis. A few centuries ago, religious leadership was the most powerful leadership. Even if a king was in place, religious leaders controlled him. After some time, his power went away and the military leadership took over. We suffered the dogmatism of religious leadership and came down to the tyranny of the military leadership. Then we have moved on in the last 150 years on this planet to the confoundedness of the democratic leadership. A simple decision that one man can make, 540 people sit together and they can't make a decision in 10,000 years. What the country needs, everybody knows, but they can't take a decision because to make 540 people agree to one idea is going to take a long time. By the time you take a decision, is irrelevant most of the time. So I'm not talking about pessimism, I'm saying this confoundedness is there across the planet and nations and planet is suffering for this. Whether it's ecological loss or many things, human rights and things, you can't take any decision because various interest groups and things keep pulling and pushing. Now one thing is happening, that is now leadership is moving into the hands of economic leaders or the business leaders. In the next 15 to 20 years, you will see economic leadership will become far more important than political leadership. We are heading there, clearly. Even now, it is already very much there. In many countries, it's the businesses which decide what the politicians should do. We have done a different kind of job. We have an economist as a prime minister. The fact is, he's not a politician because he can never get elected. He's never been elected. So we are not following democracy, because democracy happens by election. Right now we are running the nation by selection. Because we are trying… as we have our own jugaad for everything, Across the planet, this is happening. The power is moving from political leadership to economic leadership. Here, economic leadership has not come to that level. So we have put an economist as a leader who has no political capabilities. In a democratic society, a political leader means if he stands up, 1 million people should stand up with him. Only then he is a political leader. Otherwise he cannot be. So now it is moving into the hands of business. Always we have seen business as vested interest. They have the tag of vested interest hanging around their neck. This is a responsibility, I don't know whether they will stand up to it. In the last 10–12 years, I'm constantly in dialogue with economic leaders across the planet and also in this country, mainly because I see in the next few years the world will be theirs. But they have always been seen as vested interests, because these are people who are operating out of personal ambitions. To transform them from personal ambition to a larger vision is the most significant thing we need to do right now. Because whether you like it or you don't like it, the power will shift from political leadership to economic leadership. If you don't shift it consciously, it will move from economic leadership to criminalization, Because a criminal is a businessman. Personal ambition is what is driving him. But he doesn't go by the law, that's all the difference is. And now you see, many business people are also not going by the law because law is ambiguous and law is enforced ad hoc. It's enforced on me, not enforced on you. Now I think, why should I go by the law? I will also find some other way to do it. This culture is setting in. So if we do not shift this consciously, unconscious haphazard shifting will happen, naturally criminals will become leaders. You should not be surprised. People who have proper criminal records, if they become Prime Minister of this country in the next 20 years, you should not be surprised if we do not do anything about it now.
That's the challenge, Sadhguru. What do we do? That's the precise question I'm asking. Because
what do we do?
I entirely agree with you, because if power goes to businessmen, that's not going to be the best answer either. As you said, they're going to be vested interest there, while they have to be partners
they
in the
have
whole.
been vested interests. About 10, 11 years ago, in the World Economic Forum, I coined this word called inclusive economics. Since then, this word has been bouncing around in many places, even the prime ministers of the nations are talking inclusive economics. If a more inclusive way of approaching economics happens, a businessman is a good leader because the thing about the businessman is he's flexible. He doesn't believe anything. He has no qualms about anything. If the deal is good, he will do it. Even if he has to do a deal with the devil, he will deal with the devil. He has no prejudice. The deal is good, he will do it. I'm saying he is the most pragmatic man in the society, he is the businessman. But right now, he is driven by his personal ambition. To shift him to a larger vision is a challenge, which last 12 years we have been actively working on. With individual people, we have succeeded phenomenally. And in the larger context, this is something very heartening on one level, is today if you meet the businesses of the world across the planet, like never before, there are many business leaders who are thinking how to do business in such a way that it will do some good to the world. It is very important, this, because a business activity means just this. If I make some transaction, it is beneficial to both of us. Only if it is beneficial to both of us, this activity will be sustained. If it's only beneficial for me, it will not go on. Only beneficial for you, it will not go on. Whether it's marriage or marketplace, this is true, isn't it? If it's only beneficial for one person, it is not going to last. Only if the transaction is beneficial for both, it will last. So in that context, the world moving towards business leadership is a good thing, but the business leadership has to mature and evolve, which needs to be worked at. And of all the types of leadership that I have mentioned, religious, military, democratic and business leaders, I have found personally, business leaders are the easiest ones to work with because they are willing to listen to something if it makes sense to them. Religious leaders will not listen to anything because they already got instructions from elsewhere.